Hey everyone, Vince from SomeRandomDumbass checking in once again for another video. Today I'm going to be reviewing AC/DC's Power Up. Now, you guys are probably wondering, what the hell? Why aren't you in front of camera? Well, I'm a procrastinator and I don't feel like getting in front of camera. So I'm going to do it like this instead. So this video is very experimental. So without further ado, let's just fucking get into it. All right, so to start off this review on a pretty damn good note, if I say so myself, I didn't really have a lot of notes for this one because I was trying to set up some stuff. I was trying to set up a notepad for what I was going to write my reviews down and write down my little notes and to keep track of everything as I was going on. So I really don't have a lot of notes for this. So I guess I'll take this time to explain how these reviews are going to work visually. So in the big box, bottom right hand, you'll see my notes, pretty much everything that I wrote down while I was listening to it. On the left, you'll see my face and the face of Angus Young, the lead guitarist of the group. On my face, you'll find my rating for the song. And on Angus's face, you'll find how I rated his solo. Because, you know, he's going to have one, and it's going to be a good time. Also, at the top, you'll find the title of the song, and put the album cover in the top corner. Just to kind of wrap it all up in a nice little bow. Okay, so for Realize, the very first song, the only thing that I really noted was that background vocals kind of reminded me of Thunderstruck in that Brian Johnson would do his thing and then they would just be calling out like certain stuff that would seem non sequitur, but it really wasn't. Then the guitar riffs were pretty nice too. Okay, moving on. Hopefully the next one will be a lot better. All right, so moving swiftly along, second song now, we got Rejection. The very first thing that I noticed about this song was that the intro was very reminiscent to Highway to Hell, and the riff mainly reminded me of that connection. When I had to listen to this, it was the first thing that I immediately thought of. It was the first thing it reminded me of, and So this riff is pretty much the only one that's notable throughout the entire song. While it was the only one and there wasn't a lot of variety, it was still great. I loved the riff very much. I called it tasty in my notes. So, yeah, it was nice. It was quite tasty. During the second verse, though, as well as through to the end of the song, Angus Young would throw in a couple of extra licks on top of the normal riff that would be played by the rhythm guitarist, and they were always pretty nice. Always great to hear something of that nature. For Angus's solo, I gave it the rating that it did because I felt like it really wasn't that long. It wasn't long enough for my personal taste because I like my solos to be nice, long, and groovy. And this one, it was nice and groovy, but it wasn't long enough. Could have gone a couple more seconds. It was at this point I looked back over my notes and I realized that I used the same terminology to talk about the riffs for pretty much every single song. So from here on out, unless I state otherwise, you can assume that the main riff of the song was tasty and that I enjoyed it very much. All right, up next we have Shot in the Dark, the first single off this album. Actually, before I get into my notes on this one, fun fact, I wanted to react to the music video when it came out, but it left trending before I got around to it, and I basically just skipped it. So, yeah, with that out of the way, let's get into my notes. The thing that I really realized when I was listening to this was, damn, did I miss listening to Brian Johnson. I don't know why, but I love his voice. I know not a lot of people like it, but I personally enjoy it very much. And I also love the background vocals when the other members get in too. Moving into Angus's solo, I gave it a 7 because it was a good solo in itself, but it was really, really quiet. Like, I had to really listen for it, but when I found it, I enjoyed it thoroughly. Also, another thing that they like to do for AC/DC is have a secondary solo under the final chorus. And listening to that one was also very, very good, but I didn't give that one a rating because I wasn't really focusing on it. All right, moving on, track number 4, Through the Mists of Time. Normally around track number 4 is when albums start to trail off in terms of quality. Like the first couple songs are really, really good, but everything else post number 4 is just kind of terrible. So we'll see if this album falls in line with that. The main thing I wanted to say was the main riff. I enjoy what they did with it and having both guitars being funneled into different ears. So like I don't really feel I feel like not a lot of tracks are doing that these days, and I really enjoyed hearing it again. As for Angus's solo, I gave it a 7. It's the same sort of issue that I had with Rejection in that I felt like it wasn't really long enough. Like it could have gone for like 5 more seconds and it would have been perfect. So yeah, I really don't have a lot to say. I realize with what I said in my little interlude thing, I realize I talk about most of what I talk about is the riffs and the fact that I'm using the same terminology for all of it and eliminating the fact that I need to say anything is going to make this video a lot shorter than it needs to be. All right, next track number 5, Kick You When You're Down. Wow. I really enjoyed this one. The main notes I wanted to make about it was the overall melody of the song is very reminiscent of Should I Stay or Should I Go by The Clash. It just, to me, I guess, I don't know if anyone else has ever made this kind of comparison, but they sounded relatively similar to me, and I liked that. I liked that melody with the AC/DC coat of paint. And another one of my favorite things, the backup vocals for everyone else are back. And oh man, they were great here, just like they were in Shot in the Dark. And for Angus's solo, I gave it another 7 out of 10. And for my notes I put, maybe I've been listening to too much metal recently, but I feel like this one could have done a little bit more. But for AC/DC standards, it's still pretty good. All right, track number 6, we got Witch's Spell. Again, I'm gonna just talk about the backup vocals. They're super underrated. I feel like when I read people talking about AC/DC and reviewing their albums, nobody ever talks about the backup vocals from everybody else, and it's a shame because they're great. But with that, I can't exactly tell what the song is about, but I don't really care. But I am going to raise that point that I don't really know what's going on. There was something about like fortune telling or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. And while the riffs of the song are great, like normal, I really didn't think they were as great as the other ones so far, especially coming after Kick You When You're Down, which I liked a lot. As for Angus's solo, it's one of the better ones on the album. I love what they did leading up to it, with having the first few licks being going back and forth with Brian Johnson's vocals. I like it when groups do that. All right. Now for track number 7, Demon Fire. Elephant in the Room, real quick. Holy shit, the intro. I had never, ever heard Brian Johnson do anything other than his standard bird squawking vocals, as I like to call them. But, just his vocal performance on this song was second to none. One of the best I've heard from him, personally. And I feel the need to bring this up again. The main riff of this song is complex. It's more advanced than what I would hear from most standard AC/DC songs, and I love that because it shows that they're not just a simple, that their stuff's not just simple. It shows that it could take a complex turn, and I like that very much. As for Angus's solo, another one of the really good ones off this album, hitting harmonics is rare for Angus as far as I know. And again, since I've been listening to a lot of metal recently, it's awesome to hear it. Also, the riff leading up to the solo is very nice, very Back in Black-esque in sort of a faux ascending sort of list. A sort of faux ascending lick almost, if that's even what you would call that. Is this cluing you guys into how much I really don't know what I'm talking about? All right, moving swiftly along, we have track number 8, Wild Reputation. One thing I want to mention right off the bat, bass intro. Extra points for that. You don't really have a whole hell of a lot of those nowadays, do you? Not that I know anyway. Another thing I wanted to note was that they are really running with these backup vocals, and I adore it. I think it's great that the other members are getting involved with the vocal work, and I think it's great. And Brian Johnson's deep voice makes a comeback, and while I've never heard it before this, and it's weird to hear, I love it. I think it's great. Moving into Angus's solo, we have another strong one here. 8 out of 10. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I think it's very groovy, but again, it's drowned out, and it's hard to hear. All right, moving on to track number 9, we have No Man's Land. So I don't really have a lot of notes for this one, other than the vocals are just a little bit weaker than all the other ones that I've looked so far. And as for Angus's solo, even this one is kind of weak. I mean, I gave it a 6. Honestly, the tempo of the song doesn't really do it justice, and I just think the solo is slow, and I didn't really like it that much. So, of all the songs I've reviewed so far on this album, this one's the weakest, which, considering we're 9 tracks in, that's actually pretty impressive. All right, now we got track 10, Systems Down. I personally don't really have a lot of notes about any of these, really. I don't really, and it really carries over here. I personally like the interplay between Brian and the rest of the members on the chorus. I liked the main riff. It's very good, much like all the other ones, but this time I felt it was very snappy, and it hit very hard compared to all the other ones. As for Angus's solo, I gave it an 8. I gave it an 8 simply because they finally turned down the rest of the mix so I could hear it. And as a result of that, I actually have more to say about it. It was great. I liked it a lot. Personally, I feel like with the song, it could have experimented with a couple more shred elements, but I thought it was good nonetheless. All right, moving on to track number 11, we have the aptly titled Money Shot. I'm just going to say this right now. I already feel really, really weird talking about this because I know I have somebody very, very close to me in my family that watches these videos. So I'm just going to say it. Mom, I am sorry. All I really have to say about this one is that the best taken while hot ad-lib really made me uncomfortable. Really, it's like something out of a Steel Panther song. So I'm going to leave it at that. And for Angus's solo, the best one on the album, if you had to ask me, I gave it a 9. And I just think it fits insanely well with the rest of the way the song sounds. It's just beautiful to the ears. And last but not least, on AC/DC's Power Up, we have track 12, Code Red. Now, I'm going to just try to make this one really, really quick because I got to get this out. So let's just go off my notes. The riff, it's more complex than the other ones. It's kind of going in the same trend as Demon Fire, but it somehow winds up being even more complex than that with the quick little hammer-ons, pull-offs, and whatever the fuck. I don't even remember. As for the vocal performances, I feel like I don't really need to say that much about Brian Johnson. I personally like his voice, and his performances on the album shows that he can still go. As for Angus's solo on the album, I gave it a 7. Because I think it follows with the more technical side of the song. With a run near the end that seems that it would be out of place in an AC/DC song, but it actually isn't. It fits pretty damn well. All right, and that was AC/DC's Power Up and what I thought of it. Did you guys agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comment section below. Tallying up all the scores, we got 88 out of 120, which is not bad. It's not bad at all. I personally would have hoped it would have been just a teensy bit better, but hey, it still ain't bad. I can't really do mental math right now, so I can't really tell you what grade it got. It'll probably be on screen right now. Yeah, it was still good. I still enjoyed listening to it thoroughly. All right, so that's it for me this week. Tune in next week when I give you guys a late Christmas present and I revisit a dark chapter of my life. Yeah, see you guys next week. Like this video, subscribe if you're new around here. I'll see you guys. Bye-bye.